This video shows the removal and installation of the high pressure cylinder body, high pressure seal cartridge, along with the hydraulic cartridge. Using a 7/8 end wrench, start with removing the inlet water supply line. With a 15/16 end wrench, remove the gland nut from the seal head end of the bent tube. Loosen the gland nut on the other end. This allows the bent tube to be rotated clear of your work area. After you rotate the bent tube out of the way, you'll place the hand tensioner over the intensifier studs. Should apply a little bit of anti-seize to the threads on the end of the studs and the washers. You're just going to tighten these nuts down hand tight at this point. You're going to connect the hand pump to the tensioner via the quick connect hose. Then you're going to open the release valve knob on the hand pump counterclockwise a couple turns. And using an 1 5/8 crow's foot, you'll tighten the tensioner down to 20 foot-pounds in an alternating pattern. This ensures the tensioner has completely collapsed squarely. After you've collapsed the tensioner completely, you're going to loosen the tensioner nuts between a turn and a turn and a half. You just want to make sure they're all exactly the same. If you don't loosen these tensioner nuts in the next couple steps, when you relax the hand pump, it will not let the pressure off these nuts. You got to close the release valve knob on the hand pump in a clockwise. And we start pumping this, it'll feel at first like you're not doing much, but it's just taking the slack out of the tensioner. Continue to pump until you start feeling some resistance on the hand pump. Once you start feeling some resistance on the pump, you'll continue to pressurize the tensioner to 11,603 psi, or about 800 bar. You can see on here the gauge has got a 80 megapascal. That's usually what I use. I take it to the 80. At this point you'll take the same crow's foot, 1 5/8, and you'll loosen all 4 of the nuts holding the studs onto the cylinder. And you'll back these off a couple turns, approximately 1/8 inch between the nut and the seal head housing. After you back all these off, you'll loosen, you'll open the hand pump relief valve counterclockwise until the needle on the gauge reads 0, and then you'll disconnect the quick connect. You remove all the tensioner nuts and washers, and then remove the tensioner assembly off the studs. And you'll start removing the cylinder flange hex nuts from the cylinder flange. Now we're videoing this, so we're standing at the front of the machine trying to reach around and taking these flange nuts off, but of course you could move around to the end of the machine. It's a lot easier to get to the back 2 flange nuts. Now you're going to remove the cylinder flange with the seal head assembly inside. You can keep the seal head inside of it unless you're taking it out to perform service work on it. Other than that, you can leave it in. I usually reach in, pull the cylinder spacer out, or as you can see in the video, to make extra room, you can remove these studs from the Intensifier assembly, or a 3/8 drive. And once you take the front two loose, it gives you a lot more area and room to support the cylinder when you're removing it. Again, you don't have to remove these two studs. As long as you're supporting the cylinder, you can pull everything you can out through the end. But I always remove the studs. It just makes a lot more room for your work. When you're removing the cylinder spacer, and make sure you support the end of it while gently rocking back and forth when you're pulling the cylinder out. Just make sure you don't drag the high pressure cylinder on the ceramic plunger. There's a small groove in the end of that high pressure cylinder cartridge or seal cartridge. I use an electrician's screwdriver because they're coated with some plastic. Keeps from marring up the other components. Once you pry it out just a little bit, grab it with your fingers and just pull the rest of the way off the ceramic rod. Just make sure when you're pulling that out you don't drag that screwdriver on your ceramic rod. This is a good time to take a rag and clean the plunger off and the pocket that the cylinder went in. If you're going to replace the hydraulic cartridge, you'll need to remove the proximity switch as shown here. This allows the oil to drain from the hydraulic drive so it doesn't make a mess when you remove the cartridge. You should give the oil approximately 5 to 10 minutes minimum to drain before reinstalling the proximity switch. As you can see in this video, we don't have any oil in the unit, so we don't have any wait time. A word of caution, I would reinstall the proximity switch after some drain time before continuing with any work in this area. If you were to drop anything in this proximity switch hole, you would have to disassemble the unit to remove it. Before reinstalling the proximity switch, clean all the components and replace the O-rings if necessary. After installing the proximity switch bolts, tighten them evenly by hand before tightening them to the final torque of 12 foot-pounds. I'll use a small, kind of a curved pick. Reach in, there's a small weep hole in this backup disc. You can just grab it and pull it out. Clean everything off really well. On On this part, you'll notice that there's a laser mark on it that tells you this side out. That side should always face the seal head. Use your plunger removal tool, reach in and screw it onto the hydraulic cartridge until it comes in contact with the cylinder head, and gently rock it back and forth while you're pulling on it. Just pull it out over the plunger. And you can continue to clean the rest of the pocket out. Now for this video, of course, we're putting the same new parts back in. At this point, you would put new hydraulic cartridge in there and a new high pressure seal cartridge. To reinstall it, you'll screw the hydraulic cartridge onto the hydraulic cartridge itself and push it into place. You kind of tap it into the FEMA hole, turn your tool over, and it allows it to push it the rest of the way in without damaging the threads. Make sure you put the laser marks out and the weep hole down. When you install your new high pressure seal cartridge, push it over the end of the plunger and there's a weep hole in it. You can tell that's what he's looking for now. He rotates it until he sees the weep hole, puts his index finger on it and turns it till it's down, and then pushes it the rest of the way into the cavity. There's a laser arrow on the OD of the cylinder. That laser arrow should point to the seal head. Make sure everything's clean and dry. You won't put any kind of lubrication onto the angled surfaces. Reinstall your cylinder spacer by lifting up on your end of the cylinder. Reinstall your tie rods. You're going to tighten these tie rods using a 3/8 ratchet torque wrench to 50 foot-pounds. You turn the flange assembly around, take a clean rag, wipe any residual grease or goop off this area, make sure it's clean. Place the flange unit over the studs. Support the cylinder a small amount until it pushes into the pocket, and reinstall your flange nuts. Now in these threads and these flange nuts, you'll want to put a little small amount of high purity goop on those threads. You're going to just tighten these down by hand at first. Here you're going to place the hydraulic tensioner over the intensifier studs. Again, apply a little anti-seize on these threads if the threads were cleaned. Install all 4 nuts and washers and just hand tighten them. You're going to connect the hydraulic hand pump to the tensioner with the quick connect hose. And make sure you release the valve knob on the hand pump counterclockwise. And then you're going to take an 1 5/8 crow's foot and tighten the tensioner nuts to 20 foot-pounds in an alternating pattern. And this just ensures the tensioner has been completely collapsed squarely onto the studs. You're going to close the hand knob on the pump. And you're going to pressurize the gauge to 11,603 psi or 800 bar. These gauges, they have a megapascal reading. It's easy to read. I usually go to the 80 on the megapascal. And when you get to the top pressure, you'll want to hold it for a minute to make sure that the release knob isn't bypassing. You want to make sure that it's holding pressure good. You're going to tighten all the flange nuts down by hand until they come in contact with the cylinder flange. And with an 1 5/8 crow's foot, torque the flange nuts at 50 foot-pounds. Make sure you go in an alternating pattern. Now it's normal for the gauge to drop in pressure a little bit when you're putting these final 50 foot-pounds of torque on it. Don't adjust the pressure, just continue to tighten the flange nuts. And once you've got all 4 of them tightened to 50 foot-pounds, you're going to open the hand pump relief valve counterclockwise until the needle and the pressure reads 0. And then you'll disconnect the quick connect. And then you'll remove all the tensioner nuts, washers, and the tensioner assembly. After you've removed the tensioner, you'll want to reconnect your high pressure tubing. Again, these gland nuts are 15/16. Then you'll want to reconnect your inlet hose. That's a 7/8 end wrench. Now once you reconnect this, you'll restart your pump at low pressure to charge the system and check for leaks. If any leaks are detected, stop the machine